Just gonna creep on down this hill. Creep, 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 creep. It feels so good to be outside again, to be on the one wheel. I have a confession to make, and that is that I always loved skateboarding. Like, one of my favorite things was just getting out on the board, and I always look forward to that feeling of skateboarding. And since I've gotten the one wheel, it's like, I don't even want to skate. I love riding this thing. It really is a floaty feeling, and I hate to use this word, but it's really addicting. And so I'm out on the one wheel going super slow. I got a new helmet, which I'm gonna start wearing. I know this is kind of backwards, but I gotta set the example for the people watching, and I gotta protect the noggin, because if I break this noggin, then that means no more daily vlogs, which means you all don't see me, which kind of defeats the purpose of this. You know what I mean? So let's talk for a second. Anxiety. But not just any anxiety. Filmmakers' anxiety. Filmmakers' anxiety is when you wrap up a shoot and then you feel like you've forgotten something. Inevitably, you always feel like you've forgotten something, or you should have gotten a better shot. I experienced some of that today as I was wrapping up the first section of shoot for my plastic documentary. And I had the whole office filled up with plastic, and it was placed so perfectly. And as I started cleaning the plastic up and putting it back in the bags, which are also plastic, by the way, I just felt this overwhelming weight, this sense of, oh my goodness, what if I didn't get a good shot? What if there's another shot I needed and I'm forgetting it? And the more I cleaned up, the more anxious I got about it. And that is a real thing. I'm sure other filmmakers watching this right now have experienced that, but I go through that a lot. As I'm ending up a shot or a scene, or even just doing drone shots for real estate, sometimes I get an overwhelming sense of anxiety, and it's I feel like I've forgotten something. Basically, I never do, but I don't know, that's hard to overcome. Regardless of the anxiety, I think I got pretty good shots. I came up with this one. I sat the gimbal in the middle of the room, stepped outside the room, and then did a full 360-degree pan with the camera pointed down at the floor, just to reveal all of the plastic. Pretty cool. I've been reading the book Into the Woods. If you've ever looked into storytelling, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a writer, if you're just interested in telling better stories, definitely check this book out. I've recommended it a couple vlogs back, but I'm still digging into it. I'm still loving it. And this is how I know that the documentary is going to be good. Not because I'm overly cocky about it, not because it's me making it, but because I'm going to follow a pattern that is established throughout storytelling from 0 BC back to now, and it works. You have to really dig into it, but it works. The principles behind storytelling are really about change. It's about the characters going through change, and that's where the important things happen. That's how you draw people in, and that's how you get them hooked on the story. It's not the setting, it's not the overall narrative, but it's the change that occurs within the protagonist, generally speaking. So the author argues that the 3-act story, the 3-part narrative that we often know of, is just a simplistic breakdown of the 5-act narrative, which is what really brings the character into and out of change and results in a really compelling story. I still have the office clean after a full day of work. My desk is not so much clean, and I got the plants up on a thingy, like a stand. I don't know, it just creates more of I wanted a jungle feel. I don't know why. I really wanted to start this by saying that Act 1 is the hands down most important act, while some people might say that the midpoint is the most important act, but I realized every act is the most important act, because without all 5 acts acting together, you don't have a proper story, you don't have a complete story, you don't have that enthralling, compelling, interesting, rich, anyway, you gotta have all 5 acts. Act 1 is the preliminary act. It's where the character doesn't have any knowledge to begin with, but then they start to get a little bit, and then there's this awakening, so that there's oh, this needs to be done. This thing needs to get done. I need to do the thing, right? Act 2 is going to be like reluctance/acceptance. So in the second act there, the character, even after the awakening, is gonna wonder, can I do this? Is this possible? Am I able to rescue the princess even though she's in another castle? But with the help of the storyline pushing it forward, he's going to overcome that reluctance, he or she, and then there's going to be an acceptance that yes, I can do this. It's going to be hard, but I have to. Act 3 is the midpoint. This is going to be what we might know as the climax, and even though it seems odd sticking it right in the middle, this is where the character is going to experience some major thing, okay? So they're going to experiment with the knowledge, but then there's going to be this key knowledge that kicks in, like, okay, the princess is in another castle. Oh, Bowser. Okay, he's going to realize that he's going to have to go up against Bowser. Then there's going to be this experimenting with this post-knowledge. In other words, once Mario realizes that the princess is in another castle and that he's going to have to face Bowser, he's going to experiment with that post-knowledge. How can I get to Bowser? How can I defeat him? It's going to well up all these things within the character. Act 4 is going to introduce doubt into the character, and this is where it really begins to get even more personal. And this is why we can, relate to these kinds of stories, because these are the stages that we all go through in life as we're dealing with things that come up. So there's going to be this doubt, and then there's going to be a growing resistance that is going to mount itself against the character. And then there's going to be regression. No, I can't do this. No, I've fallen backwards, or something's going to happen to the character that we think they're not going to be able to get through. In the final act, Act 5, we're going to see this reawakening. All the knowledge that he originally learned, all the things that he's experimented with, all of that is going to come flooding back. He's going to break free of those chains of Act 4 that we thought, oh, he's not going to make it. Something's going to happen. Why has he given up? Or whatever's going on in this guy's head, I can relate to. There's going to be this reawakening, and then there's going to be this reacceptance that I can do this. I can beat this enemy or whatever it is. But the whole point of this is to show change in the character, and it's not the outside story that's the focus. The focus is within, because he gains this knowledge. But then he begins to regress. He begins to doubt himself. He faces this challenge that he doesn't think he's going to be able to overcome. So that wells up this almost like fear or this situation that you don't think they're going to get out of. But then at the last moment, they're able to break free of those things and overcome those odds. And that's where this total mastery is introduced in the very final scene of Act 5. So at this point, you're like, but Matthew, you said you were doing a documentary, dude. What's that got to do with a documentary? That's the best part. I'm telling a story through a documentary. I'm telling my journey of collecting plastic for a full month and the effect that it had on me. The same story rules apply. If I want to tell a compelling story to help people follow along and feel what I felt, I need to follow that 5-act structure. And I don't have to follow it to a T. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly Mario getting the princess out of a castle, but it's the same concept going through it, because as humans, we all experience those same things. They might, they might manifest themselves in like different ways, but ultimately we're going to experience the same fears, the same doubts, the same regressions, the same overcoming structures, and all those things are going to culminate in a really compelling, strong story. And that's how I know that my documentary is going to be awesome. Not because I'm making it, but because I'm going to follow that 5-act structure, and I'm going to use it to forward the story along, to push the narrative along. And that's how you tell a compelling story. And I don't care if you're trying to tell a story in a vlog about paper clips. You can do that if you have 5 acts, and it can be compelling. Peter McKinnon made a video one time about him chasing a lemon through a grocery store. If you break it down, there's 5 acts in that video. That's why it was so compelling. And I remember somebody writing, Peter, you could make mowing the lawn. I remember somebody writing, Peter, I've never had so much fun going to the grocery. Why? Because he told a compelling story by using those 5 acts. He didn't know what he was getting into with the lemon challenge. Then he needed a lemon. He couldn't get the lemon because it kept rolling away. Then there was this doubt, do I really want to do this? And then he did it. Boom, 5 acts. Very simple, but it's genius. Okay, check out Into the Woods. I'll link it down below. You really need to go buy that book. Kindle or paperback, whatever. If you're into storytelling at all, go check that book out. It's worth a read. It's pretty short and it's so rich. I'm M. Hyatt. That's Hyatt like the hotel, and I will see you tomorrow. Yes.